melts my heart when I see those who serve the nation's military living in grim conditions that even animals would not accept. Have you ever wondered how those 3,500 homeless veterans live on streets like vagabonds? What happened to the promise of giving permanent housing to those who serve the nations with their heart and blood? We will uncover all these in this video. Coming home after serving in the military can be really tough for some veterans in Los Angeles. They often have trouble finding jobs and stable places to live, especially with how expensive things are here. Many also carry hidden scars from their service, like depression, anxiety, or the lingering effects of trauma. These issues, along with sometimes turning to drinking or drugs to cope, can make it even harder to get back on their feet. Finding and using the help they need can feel like a maze, with lots of paperwork, long waits, and feeling like folks don't really get what they've been through. There's also a big piece of land in West LA that was meant for veterans, but for a long time it wasn't being used much for them. Have you ever wondered what could be the cause behind miserable living conditions of those who wholeheartedly serve the nation? Today, in this video, we are uncovering this issue that not everyone is comfortable to talk about. Los Angeles, city of angels, city of shadows. Look at this city, Los Angeles, the city of angels, a beacon of dreams, of opportunity, of endless sunshine. It's a place where fortunes are made, where stars are born, where the future feels bright and limitless. But what if I told you that beneath this glittering facade there's a shadow, a deep aching wound that we as a society have allowed to fester? What if I told you that right here, in this city of abundance, thousands of our nation's heroes are living on the streets, forgotten and abandoned? It's a truth so disturbing it's almost impossible to comprehend. Los Angeles, this sprawling metropolis, is home to more homeless veterans than any other city in the United States. Think about that for a moment. The very people who swore an oath to protect our freedoms, who faced unimaginable horrors in distant lands, are now fighting a different kind of war right here at home. A war against hunger, against the elements, against the crushing weight of invisibility. The stark reality, numbers, and why, despite recent efforts, despite the headlines that trumpet decreases in numbers, the reality on the ground is still heartbreaking. In 2024, the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA, identified nearly 3,000 veterans experiencing homelessness. That's 3,000 lives, 3,000 stories, 3,000 individuals who once stood tall, ready to sacrifice everything for us. And now they're sleeping on cold concrete under flimsy tarps, their dreams replaced by the stark struggle for survival. Why Los Angeles? Why here? In a state that prides itself on its progressive values, its compassion. The reasons are complex, interwoven like a tangled knot of fate and circumstance. The rising cost of living, the astronomical rents that push even working families to the brink, create an impossible barrier for those with limited resources. Imagine trying to find a place to live when every dollar is a battle, when every door seems to slam shut in your face. For many veterans, especially those grappling with the invisible wounds of war, this financial burden becomes an insurmountable wall. The invisible wounds and the vicious cycle. But it's not just about money, is it? The scars of war run deeper than the eye can see. A significant portion of these brave men and women struggle with mental illness, PTSD, depression, anxiety, often a direct consequence of their military service. They carried the weight of our nation's battles, and now they carry the weight of their own minds, a burden that can be heavier than any combat gear. And in their desperation, many turn to substance abuse, a desperate attempt to numb the pain, to silence the demons that whisper in the dark. It's a vicious cycle, a cruel trap that ensnares them, making it even harder to break free. Transitioning to civilian life, a phrase so easily uttered yet so profoundly difficult to achieve. Imagine spending years in a highly structured environment where every action has a purpose, every day is defined by duty and camaraderie. Then suddenly, you're thrust back into a world that feels alien, a world where your skills don't seem to translate, where the support networks you once relied on are gone. Finding employment, navigating a bureaucratic system that seems designed to confuse rather than help, it's a daunting task. For many, the transition becomes a fall, a descent into a life they never imagined.
The paradox of the West LA VA campus. And then there's the paradox of the West LA VA campus. A vast expanse of land originally intended to house and care for veterans, yet for decades it stood largely empty. A symbol of broken promises. How can such a place exist? A sanctuary meant for those who served, while just outside its gates, veterans languish on the streets. The irony is a bitter pill to swallow. Even those with a 100% disability, those who have given every ounce of their being, can be deemed ineligible for housing due to income restrictions. Income restrictions for a disabled veteran. Does that sound right to you? Does that sound like the way we should treat our heroes? Accessing services, navigating the labyrinthine system of aid and support can be a full-time job in itself. Imagine being mentally and physically exhausted, battling addiction or trauma, and then being told you need to fill out endless forms, stand in long lines, prove your worthiness for help that should be readily available. It's a system that often fails those who need it most, leading to prolonged periods of homelessness, a slow erosion of hope and dignity.
Addiction's grip, a tragic consequence. The statistics are stark, chilling in their implications. Homeless veterans are more likely to struggle with opioid addiction than the general veteran population receiving VA care. This isn't just a coincidence, it's a tragic consequence of their circumstances. Unstable housing, the constant threat of violence, the sheer desperation of life on the streets. These high-risk environments exacerbate existing problems, pushing individuals further into the abyss of addiction. Homelessness isn't just a lack of a roof over your head. It's a vicious cycle that strips away everything, leaving only despair in its wake. These are not just numbers. These are not just statistics. These are lives. These are men and women who once wore the uniform, who answered the call, who stood on the front lines so we could live in peace. And now they are fighting for their very existence on the streets of our cities. It's a stain on our collective conscience, a testament to a system that has, in many ways, failed them. Stories of resilience and hope. Michael's journey. But beyond the facts and figures, beyond the disturbing realities, there are stories, personal stories that will break your heart and hopefully ignite a fire within you. Stories that remind us that behind every statistic is a human being with a past, with dreams, and with an unimaginable struggle. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael was a Los Angeles area veteran who'd fallen on hard times. For 10 long years, he lived primarily under a bridge along the Los Angeles River. 10 years, think about that. A decade of waking up to the sound of traffic overhead, of battling the elements, of constantly looking over your shoulder. When outreach workers from the VA first approached him, he resisted. He was ashamed of his appearance, of his situation. He didn't want to be homeless, but the sheer complexity of his circumstances, the weight of his shame, made him reluctant to accept help. But the outreach workers persisted. They visited his encampment weekly, determined to build a rapport, to earn his trust. For the first month, Michael stayed inside his tent, a fortress against the world. But they kept coming, talking to him about housing solutions, about VA health care, about potential income sources. A breakthrough came when Michael's leg became infected. Even then, he refused to go to the VA. So the outreach workers arranged for medical supplies and care right there, tent side. Slowly, painstakingly, they gained his trust. He eventually agreed to visit an office where he showered, got a cell phone, and accessed a computer for the first time in his life. This initial connection, this small act of persistent kindness, led to everything. Michael was connected to VA mental health and primary care services. He received a housing voucher and found a home where he's lived for over a year now. He reconnected with his family. He's getting employment skills. Michael is active in his community, and he is no longer homeless. His story is a testament to the power of persistence, of empathy, of never giving up on those who have given so much. But it also highlights the immense effort it takes, the individual battles that must be won, one by one. George Hill, from homelessness to hero. Then there's George Hill, a Marine Corps veteran who left service. His life took a challenging turn. He faced extreme hardships, struggling with the invisible wounds of PTSD. He didn't realize it at the time, but the pain led him to self-medicate with alcohol and drugs. He didn't want to burden his friends or family, so homelessness became his reality. 12 years of battling addiction, of being starved for food but choosing to use his money for alcohol and drugs instead. He said, and I quote, "You can read all about addiction, but you don't know the true feeling of desperation until you are there." George's life began to change when he went to the VA for assistance. He joined the New Directions for Veterans program at the West Los Angeles VA Medical Center, a sober living environment. It helped him get clean. He even became one of the resident managers. He said, "When I got to VA, everything I needed was there." How do you go from being homeless for 12 years to being a success story? What changed for me was that I got help from the VA and was graced with God's divine intervention. I take my hat off to the VA. George's story is one of incredible resilience. He not only overcame his own struggles, but went on to help countless other veterans. He started a career at the VA as a housekeeper, quickly moving up the ranks to become a computer clerk. He would refurbish veterans' computers, fix viruses, and teach them how to use them. He became one of the first peer-to-peer support counselors hired in the country, helping to develop the peer leadership team. He makes sure no one is left behind. He works with passion, dedication, and determination, connecting with veterans because they can see how much he cares. These stories, Michael's and George's, are not just tales of individual triumph. They are a stark reminder of the potential that lies within every homeless veteran, a potential that can be unlocked with the right support, the right resources, and most importantly, the right amount of compassion. But for every Michael and George, how many more are still out there, lost in the shadows, their stories unheard, their struggles unseen? A call to action, our collective responsibility. We talk about honoring our veterans, about supporting our troops. We wave flags, we celebrate holidays, we offer platitudes. But what does that truly mean when we allow those who have served to live in such abject poverty, in such desperate conditions? Is this the gratitude we owe them? Is this the respect they deserve? The problem of veteran homelessness in Los Angeles is not just a local issue, it's a national shame. It's a reflection of our priorities, of our values. It's a call to action, a demand that we do better, that we be better. We cannot, we must not turn a blind eye to the suffering of those who sacrifice so much for us. What can we do? It starts with awareness. It starts with understanding. It starts with demanding accountability from our leaders, from our institutions. It means supporting organizations that are on the front lines, providing direct aid, housing, and mental health services. It means advocating for policies that prioritize affordable housing, that streamline access to benefits, that address the root causes of homelessness. It means remembering that every single one of these individuals is a human being, a son, a daughter, a father, a mother, a friend. They are not nameless, faceless statistics. They are our heroes, and they deserve a place to call home. They deserve dignity. They deserve our unwavering support. The indignity of invisibility. James's story. We often see them, don't we? A fleeting glance as we drive by, a quick sidestep on the sidewalk. We might offer $1, a sympathetic nod, or perhaps we look away. It's easier to look away, isn't it? To pretend that this isn't happening, that these aren't the men and women who once stood on distant battlefields defending the very freedoms we now take for granted. But every averted gaze, every hurried step deepens the chasm between us and them. It reinforces the very isolation that often drives them further into the shadows. Think about the sheer indignity of it. Imagine waking up each day with no certainty of where your next meal will come from or where you'll find a safe place to rest your head. Imagine the constant gnawing fear, the vulnerability to violence, to exploitation, to the harsh indifference of the elements. For those of us who have never known such a struggle, it's almost unfathomable. Yet for thousands of veterans in Los Angeles, this is their daily reality. This is the thank you they receive for their service. Let me share another story, one that echoes the struggles of so many. This is the story of James. James, a veteran, found himself living in his car in Los Angeles. His car became his home, his sanctuary, his only refuge from the streets. He parked it in the safe parking LA lot at the West Los Angeles VA Medical Center, a small measure of safety in a world that offered little. Imagine the quiet desperation of that existence, the cramped space, the constant worry about security, the lack of basic amenities that most of us take for granted, a hot shower, a proper bed, a private bathroom. James's story is not unique. Many veterans, unable to afford the exorbitant rents, find themselves in similar situations, living out of their vehicles, clinging to a semblance of normalcy in the face of overwhelming adversity. A future where every hero has a home. These are the stories that don't always make the headlines, the quiet struggles, the hidden despair, but they are just as real, just as heartbreaking. They are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, but also to the profound failures of a society that allows its heroes to fall through the cracks. We owe them more than just words of gratitude. We owe them action. We owe them a future where the scars of war do not condemn them to a life on the streets. We owe them the dignity they earned, the respect they deserve, and the unwavering support that should be given for those who have served. The time for platitudes is over. The time for action is now. Let us not forget the unseen scars, the unheard stories. Let us be the generation that finally ensures that every veteran has a place to call home. Let us be the change